I teach 9th through 12th grade here at Caddo Hills. Mr. Neal here, he's our principal. We shifted in the last year or so from just a normal K-12 public school to now we're considered like a conversion charter on the 7th through 12th grade side. So we have a little bit more freedom to do some very innovative things around campus. So what led to this is prior to 2021, our high school had gone through 4 principals in less than 10 years. And as one principal would come in, it would be a shift from like almost 180 degrees from what the last one did. And so you end up with these huge fluctuations in what they want from students, what they hold students accountable for. You saw teachers frustrated, students frustrated, just a lack of positivity on campus, really. And Mr. Neal is not in that 4. So I want to say that he is 5. He's number 5. But it was just a lot of just being dissatisfied with being a teacher. Kids just frustrated, dealing with discipline issues. For me, it was just like worst environment imaginable, but this is where I wanted to teach. So it was like, what can we do to change things? So that put us into the spring of 2021, where that we knew we were going to hopefully be going with this charter. And if we were going to change things that much, then we figured, like, why not change everything? So we started looking for like a behavior management system. And the first one that we found like had students with badges, and that would require teachers to have scanners, and that was a lot of tech that would be required for teachers to have to learn and process. And so we didn't feel like that was the best option. And so it was just back to the old Google search drawing board. And I really feel that it was just divine inspiration, insight. I think it was someone from Live School asked me, what did you Google search for Live School to pull up? And I do not know. I have no idea what it was, but it was just that divine moment that Live School popped up on our radar. And whenever I was looking at it, my wife's a teacher here was looking at it. Mr. Neal was a teacher at the time looking at it. Our current principal at the time looking at it, it just seemed like it was the right thing to do of what we wanted. It seemed like it'd be easy for teachers to pick up and use. And that's really what we wanted, is we knew that there'd be some kickback from the teacher side. And so we didn't want, well, it's too hard to use to be a reason why they wouldn't use it. And so we wanted a way to track what students were doing, positively and negatively. We needed a way, because we had a lot of kids that were great kids, but they were just completely ignored and off the radar because we were so busy focused on negative stuff all the time. And we just needed a way to refocus, what is student behavior? What is discipline? What is that? If we're going to revolutionize our campus, then let's start from the ground up. So year 1, our struggles was getting students to buy in and teachers to buy in. That was frustrating on my side of it. I expected the students to not like it. I didn't expect some of them just to outright hate it. The thing that was the most frustrating that was teacher buy-in and consistent use by teachers, and then just having that fidelity, or just where everyone is using it honestly and consistently across the board, and not just rewarding crazy numbers of points for silly things. And so that was a major struggle. In fact, this past summer, Mr. Neal, you called me in and it's like, so we're doing some live school stuff. And I was like, I'm done with it. I'm frustrated. And so it was not frustrated with live school. It's frustrated with, how do we get teachers to buy in and use it the way that they're supposed to? And looking back, I expected too much, I guess. I expected 100% buy-in on day 1. Like, I looked at it and loved it and thought that every other teacher would look at it like I did. And that wasn't what it was. We are better than what we were, way better than what we were, but we still have some that are struggling. And I find myself just so busy sometimes that I struggle to use it. And last year I didn't understand that, when teachers are like, well, I'm just so busy. And it's like, how are you too busy to go put in a point? And this year, I really feel like it's that reaping what I've sowed, of that judgment that is like, oh, I get it this year. I understand on being so busy that you just tend to forget, and just setting up really just a reminder to go in and put a point, to go in and do that. Some successes that we've had is we now have, I think, a better picture of student behavior. Sometimes we would have in our mind, like, yeah, that kid's someone you got to watch for. And then what story does life school tell? Like, no, every once in a while this kid may just have a bad day. And sometimes those one-off bad days really stick with us as teachers, and we sometimes paint a false picture of who a student is. One thing that was the most powerful for me, last year when we were first using it, we had a student that I had gotten onto him through live school, another teacher had, and so it ended up with, just escalated way out of control. And the student ended up in the office, and it was me that was targeting the student because, I was just being a bully. And if you see me up close in person, you can understand maybe where that comes from. But the principal pulled up the live school and said, no, this is not targeting. This is an issue that you have as a student of not being able to control your actions and control yourself. And so for me, that was the biggest win for me that I could ever sell for teachers on why you should use live school, is because it's so easy for us to be accused, and what verification or what proof do we have that we didn't do something? Because it's going to be our word against the students. And then parents are always going to side with the student most of the time. And so it becomes a he said or you said and I said type thing. But live school really bailed me out on that, because it was like, did I really target this one? And he even went in and said, no, it's not just you that he's hitting everybody that's doing this. And so that was a wonderful thing. Around Christmas, we got the live school store up and going. And that's when we saw student buy-in happen, because it wasn't just points anymore. It was points that you could do something. So until the points had a meaning, it was hard to get kids to understand why you need it. The cool thing, though, is, like it says here, that teachers' ability to monitor individual students and or specific behaviors and teacher insights into students. And it's sometimes you forget to do it, but you can pull up like your little dashboard and you see your students that are on your roster. And sometimes you can see a kid that's just having a bad day before they walk through your door. And so, and I guess I am saying that sometimes as teachers, we do need to tread a little lightly with kids. Not that we should back off and not hold them to accountability, but sometimes we've got to understand that if we have bad days where we can snap and say something we shouldn't, kids are the same way, because they can control themselves less than we can. And so just having that insight into what may be going on in a student, being able to see patterns in student behavior. Is it happening this time of the day, that time of the day, this time of the month? Like if it's a parent or a student going to different parents' houses. So just the power that it gave us as teachers to be able to see a better picture of who our students were was amazing. Some things that we thought we had figured out, we thought we knew, and the best way to understand it is like quicksand, that we thought, well, maybe this is just a sticky thing, but the more that we tried to push through it, the more that we fought it, the deeper we got and the harder the fight was. And the one was the behavior rubric that we had. We went huge. We tried to put every single thing that a student could possibly do to make it easier for teachers. And what that ended up doing was just overwhelming teachers with trying to find a specific behavior. So sometimes being a little more vague is a little better. And what we rely on now is the comment section. We found also that it was way easier for students to lose points than to gain a point. And that's something that students brought up to us as well. It's like, hey, we can lose a point for just about anything, but how are we going to gain points? And teacher use issues is not everyone saw the value in it. And still, I think there's some that don't see the value in it. But I'm learning that just because a teacher doesn't use it doesn't mean that they don't see value in it. It's sometimes that we just have so much on our plates that's sometimes the last thing that comes across our mind to do is to put that point in. Student issues, a lot of them felt like this was a baby thing, like this is maybe just Class Dojo's bigger brother that's never should have intended to go beyond elementary. But like I said, once the school store opened up, that line of thought really went away. A lot of kids didn't like the idea of being tracked. They felt like it was a prison system or a jail where we're just monitoring them. And in a way, we do need to monitor what kids are doing. We need to have our eyes open and pay attention, because I don't know about other schools, but I mean, we deal with things that, like vaping, for instance, that if you're not watching for it, you're not going to see it. And so you do have to refresh your look on what you're looking for and learn to look at different things. And what we found is that not just focus in on the negative, but to try to find the positive as well. So how we got out of that quicksand was we stopped going forward with it, and we just stopped, and we brought in a group of students. It's on our leadership team. It's all led by students. Well, it's sort of monitored by teachers, but it's really, the power of it is in the students that are on it. And we said, look, here's the issue with live school. We know half of you love it, half of you hate it. Teachers, more than half of us are not using it. How do we fix it? And so the kids just looked at our rubric, and I mean, it hurt because we're the teachers that put the time in to do it, but they started picking it apart and saying, this is not right, this is not right, fix this, fix this. And so what we ended up doing was going from a huge rubric to a smaller rubric. And so we ran it through the paces one afternoon of asking students, well, what if a student does this? And they were able to find every single thing. And then the powerful part was whenever we brought those students into our staff meeting and gave the same presentation and allowed students to sort of show the same thing of, well, if they do this, if we do this, if we do that, this is how you can put it in there. And for teachers to see that kids actually did care about it. And I think the thing is that kids want teachers to use it, but a lot of times kids are, you know, I've told kids, well, tell your teachers, use live school. Tell your teachers, use live school. But a lot of them, they are very respectful, and they're not going to say that to a teacher. And so they can become disheartened a little bit. The live school store was huge in getting the student buy-in. And then this year we've offered, and last year we started with some big incentives. This year we offered a huge one. We did a raffle through live school points of a PlayStation 5 and an Oculus. So they were able to use their live school points to buy raffle tickets, and then they were able to win something like that. So that was how we started getting out of that situation. Trips to the movies, so they got to go watch the new Avatar. If you had a certain, or this one was by or houses, so the 12th graders were the ones that were in the lead on their ratio. So the whole 12th grade class got to go watch Avatar. So the school treated them to entry into the movie, a popcorn and a drink, and anything else they wanted above that, they had to have. We're getting ready to go to like an arcade and go-kart park. Last year, we did some pizza parties and things like that. So just trying to find something to motivate kids to say, hey, I want to be a part of that.
Hey, Will, real quick. I had a question about your student leadership team. So you guys had them help you kind of edit and refine the rubric. How did you guys prep them for that work? Is that something they like? Are they involved in decision making like fairly often on different things? I'm a big fan of when we include students in things. I think our success rate is a lot higher when we do. So I just wanted you to expand on it a little bit. I think it's a great idea.
I'm going to turn that one over to Mr. Neal.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for that question. I really appreciate you and Heather allowing us an opportunity to share our story with your platform, and we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in today. You know, one of the first things that really got me motivated into leadership was the fact that I had adults in my life that asked my opinion about things, wanted to know how I felt. Experiencing that as a student made it a very big aspect of my leadership style whenever I was able to assume this role as principal and become the lead learner for our campus. So in doing so, we, of course, we're going through a major change in our culture and who we are, transitioning after 50 years of education in our community. We became Caddo Academy. And so we are the state of Arkansas's first high school, 7 through 12, focused on entrepreneurship, community leadership. And as Mr. Squires gave a little bit of detail, it's loosened up some of the restrictions. So one of the great features that we have, hiring decisions. So we currently have some staff that are working on campus. They are trained in discipline, but they may not have a state certification in that area. So greatest example of that is our newest business teacher. She took over for me whenever I stepped out of the business classroom and came to this seat. And she came to us from a bank. She has a bachelor's degree in business administration, and she's currently going through a licensure program in our state, but she wasn't licensed at the beginning, making a great contribution to our campus. But we were able to cut some of that red tape because we are a charter. We also applied and received a $1.25 million grant that helped us bring in innovative programming like CNC advanced manufacturing in Mr. Squires' classroom. And so in doing that, we really wanted to focus in on how do we get students ready for life? And so our mission became life ready. How do we get students life ready? And in doing that, we really wanted to focus in on a SEL, social emotional learning curriculum, that would best support students naturally growing into the leaders we want them to be, because our charter is prized on entrepreneurship. So gaining qualities and skills that are transferable across any industry sector that they may find themselves in someday, but also community leadership. We're come from a very rural area in the state of Arkansas. We're one of the smallest districts in class size, but one of the largest in land mass. And so we currently have 247 students in grades 7 through 12 and operate with 24 licensed staff members. And so our students that live in this area come from multiple communities. They may get bussed in for 35, 40 minutes. And so we know that our students are going to be our city council members someday, our school board members. And so we really wanted to focus in on what a strong leadership curriculum could look like. And we found Leader in Me, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And of course, been a great staple in the business industries for a long time. And we've adopted it here. And so once we signed on and became a lighthouse school, we received coaching from Leader in Me program. And they were able to come in and give our staff training, our students training. And then that really was the genesis for our student leadership team. It's kind of morphed away from just Leader in Me, because we are allowing them to make decisions across the gamut, whether that be our handbook, discipline policies, beautification projects around campus. You know, the list is growing as they see need. In our most recent meeting, we did a brainstorming activity, and the students identified an area of focus being laundry service. Some of our students, may be coming from a homeless or transitional housing situation, and in that moment they may need some laundry services. And so the students developed that idea and have taken it on as a project for next year. And so they really lead everything we do here on campus. And what we found is that's making it easier for them to buy in, and it's making it a lot easier for our staff to buy in. And I just want to really appreciate and applaud the efforts of Mr. Squires as our leader within this live school initiative. His passion is unmatched, and in the years that I've been with him, working alongside him as a classroom teacher, I too face some of these same struggles, but I kind of threw my hands up and said, I don't know really what to do. And he didn't. He kept really putting his hands to the work, and I appreciate that. Even though there were some struggling days, no doubt this work isn't easy, as you all are well aware. Education is a changing landscape, but he's kept the students at the focus, and I think that's kind of what's helped us receive some of the success that we've had. We had all the right elements. It was just putting them in the right positions to synergize our desires.
And I want to add on that with our student leadership team, that sort of become like it's not really a club, but it's become the group that kids want to be part of. When you ask, like, how did we get them to do the work? It was really the teacher leadership team having to really humble ourselves and say, maybe we don't know the answers to everything. And so that was a powerful moment to be able to realize that even though I want to think that we're the smartest people here, sometimes we miss it, and we miss it big time. And the kids, they're able to take it and they can really sell it to their peers in a way that we can't, because it just sometimes feels like teachers just trying to push something. But if the students can get a hold of it, then they can put it in a way that kids want to do it rather than have to do it.
Thanks for that clarification. Whenever you have students who want to be part of a student leadership team, you've done something right culture wise. So that I commend you guys for that. That's awesome. Okay, real quick to finish up this slide here.
what we found where we're currently at, buy-in is increasing, but we do see that over the course of the week, our usage drops. And as the year progresses, the usage tends to drop. And last year it was, me being mad, thinking, well, you just don't want to do this. And now looking at it from another perspective of at the end of the week, that's usually by the time that we have been overwhelmed with everything that we've got to do. And sometimes it takes a back burner. And you guys know that as you progress through the school year, the amount of responsibilities that you have to do, the things that get put on your plate last minute, it just builds and builds and builds. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. We've been also implemented a couple of things here. We call it the hallway high five and the SOS. And both of those are set up to alert Mr. Neal whenever a teacher puts it in. And so he immediately gets an email sent to him, and he's got his phone on him, so it'll bing or it'll alert him. And so the hallway high fives, that's sort of like us to really commend a student that's gone above and beyond, that's just doing something great. And even it doesn't have to be above and beyond a grade. It could just be that they went out of their way to be nice,
Engaged highly
yes.
in a conversation in the class.
Yeah, just something that makes you stand out and say, wow, that is really awesome. And then the one that I think's been most helpful, that even the student leadership team agreed with this one, is the SOS. Because we're going to have sometimes situations that escalate quickly, or we see that they're going to escalate quickly. And so he can get that, and he can be alerted that something's going on in the classroom, and he can be making his way down there to sort of intervene and stop the situation before it gets to a point that's bad. And so now I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Neal.
Thank you. So, for every educator on the call today, the value of data. And two big things that Live Schools provided us has been consistent communication and consistent accountability across the board. And being able to communicate that, through data has just been so powerful. And I didn't do this on purpose, but even our word of the week this week on campus is data. And, Live School helps us not only track what we want to see in the classroom, but really what we maybe sometimes don't see. As Mr. Squires talked about, this is a powerful opportunity whenever I'm disciplining a student to have this conversation. Hey, you're doing this in every one of these classrooms. It's not just happening here. It's not just happening with you and this one teacher, but you consistently have been falling down behaviorally throughout the entire year. And those are powerful conversations. This is a great tool to use with parents. I've had many conversations this school year with families on, a student's progress and how they're doing. And even by them receiving the notifications weekly of the student's progress, we've been able to increase parental communication, family engagement by so much just by utilizing these tools. As Mr. Squires said, you can see here our trend data, has been a little bit all over the place, partially because, teachers have not had one resource that I've been working on for 2 years now, working to get them as a classroom teacher and supporter of Mr. Squires' initiative here. We work trying to get every teacher a device where they could use that device daily in order to provide, the opportunity to capture the points or deduct points instead of having to stop the lesson, walk over to a computer and punch it in. So we're hoping, I got them ordered today, matter of fact, iPads for all of our staff to use with Live School. And so we've really been able to see the investment that the teachers have been making and trying to make, and the students have really talked well about it enough to where I was able to persuade our superintendent, that this was something worthy of investing in to give our teachers, another way of communicating and capturing data within the classroom. A lot of the things Mr. Squires talked about, we revamped our behavior matrix and revamped our flow chart of escalation, and it was all driven by students. And we started to ask them questions about, along with teachers, about what are we looking for? What are the things that we need to ensure that we're doing? Of course, classroom behavior is a big one. We want appropriate behaviors in classrooms. And we were able to leverage the SEL curriculum off that. We start utilizing these habits like, think, win, seek first to understand before being understood. These elements all put together really gave us the synergy to move this thing forward. We're having issues like many coming to class on time. Started rewarding that. Commitment to learning. Are you staying on task? Yes, we've done a direct lesson. You have a project that you're working on or an activity that the teacher's assigned. Are you staying committed to that work? Are you following through and adhering to the rubric? Are you doing all the things that we need you to do? And so we really benefited by being able to capture these elements. And I'm not saying it's perfect. Of course, we're just constantly monitoring and trying to figure out what do we need to change and how do we need to make this better. But, we did back whenever we first talked to Jordan and Heather, we were able to kind of, I think that was around Christmas time or just right after Christmas. And so we had that first semester down and we had decreased office referrals by 60%. And today we've increased it a little bit. We're hovering around 46, I think, percent. But last year at year to date today, we had 174 infractions. Year to date today, we only have 76. So we've really been able to see the buy-in from the teachers and the buy-in from the students and helping us work on the behaviors that we want to see our students produce and be accountable for. Whenever we first went through the charter process, we were reviewed by an education consultant group. They told us in the meeting after they had done the walkthroughs and spent time doing some culture analysis that two things had to be fixed if we were going to make the charter work. And the first was communication and the second was behavior. If those two things were not fixed, then the charter would never be successful. And I really took that to heart because at that time I was writing the charter grant and working on that. And we were really trying to get laser focused on what it is we need to do. And so I really want to encourage, if you're interested in this program, if you're using this program, it really starts at the top. And you have to have full buy-in because there's going to come up things that, we didn't plan for, like the funding for these incentives. That's not free things or, all those activities cost money. And so finding community partners that are buying into the vision and finding people that are willing to support it. We recently had a donor come through and just gave us $5,000 to help support these programs. And so, when the community sees the value, the students see the value, the teachers see the value, then to us, that's success. And so, again, we're not telling anybody that we've got it figured out. But boy, we sure are happy with where we are today. And we're going to continue to move forward as best we can to make next year even better. And we know live school is going to be a big part of that.
So there was a couple of things I had, and guys, is that your last slide, Justin? If anybody's got questions, now's a great time. I've wrote down a few that I'm going to ask in the meantime. There was one that stood out to me when I was looking at your data there, because you kind of ended with the referral reduction, and that's a big reduction still. It was a whole lot of Christmas. It's still a whole lot. I was a disciplined guy at high school. Those are low numbers. That's a big improvement you guys are making. The thing that stood out to me the most was when I was looking at the ratio of positive to demerits. It was 65-1, I think is what I wrote down. But that speaks to it. It goes back to what Will said about what the students were talking about with the original matrix. There's way more easy ways for you to lose points and gain them. When you guys have made those adjustments, and I guess everyone's kind of on board with that. You guys are really looking for positive things out of your kids. And that's got to be a correlation to a lot of the success. That's what stood out to me the most was I heard Will say that, and I saw how much positive you guys were finding, and that's definitely working.
Jordan, I also want to compliment the staff because, we have holistically went through a pedagogical change in our philosophical interpretation and approach to the education that we're trying to produce here on campus. I mean, we are shifting away from the traditional classroom and moving into a career technical focused classroom in every facet, where we are really striving for production. And one of the things Mr. Squires really strives for whenever he's in his classroom is excellence. And even so, even to a fault at times, perfection. And that's the mission moving this thing forward, is that, the more positive relationships we can invest in our students, the more we can create positive atmosphere for them to be able to want to be at school, to feel good about being at school, and to enjoy the experiences that they have while they're in school, the more we can do. And so we've invested out of that 1.25 million. We've already spent over $600,000, and we've bought CNC equipment for him. We bought a news broadcast station for AV Tech Film. We're putting in a culinary arts kitchen. We're putting in a bank. We're putting in a screen printing shop. So we're doing all these things, but none of it would be possible if we would have never gotten the behavior issue fixed. If we wouldn't have gotten, the identification of teacher to student positive relationships and how important that is. And then getting everybody to drive towards that application. How do we get products out of what we're doing? And so that entrepreneur spirit is alive and well.
That's awesome. And it sounds like, the fruits of that are sort of happening on campus too. You said that you talked about the laundry program that had started up as sort of as an offshoot of, the culture you guys created allowed that to happen. That's awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to give everybody another minute or so if they've got any questions in the chat. Guys, this has been awesome. You said that teachers are about to get iPads. This actually might be a question for Will or maybe Justin, because you've seen folks doing it right now. Can you give me an example of how folks are like how they giving points like during lessons, or are they using them for like engagement and stuff like that, or how's that going?
Sometimes it's not as, I guess, I don't know, it's not as live in the lesson as that. Like, I can speak for myself and my wife that if we have a disruption, then this is happening right now. But a lot of times, positive stuff, it comes afterwards. If I can make a conscious effort to have it pulled up when I'm doing it, then I can sort of go side to side. And I've not been Mr. Neal's biggest fan on getting iPads for everybody until I've seen this year of, it is kind of a hassle or a pain to shift gears and move across the room. Whereas if I just had that little device, I could pull it out and do it from the back of the room and maybe less likely to forget. I don't know. But it's not as, I don't know what the right word, real time, I guess, as it could be.
Now, I have been in some 7th and 8th grade classrooms where the teacher will have their class pulled up. And so when the notification goes off, there's the positive sound, ding, and then there's the demerit sound, or something. Yeah. That'll get them going. I mean, that they're like, oh, we got to do something good to counteract the bad part whenever they're really wanting to be that class that makes it to the arcade or goes to the pizza party or,
Oh, and I actually have one more for Justin, because speaking of counteract, it made me remember something I wrote down earlier. Like in my education days, I was a dean, so like I would get that SOS call you're talking about, like come to the room, something's happened, and I'm only getting called for bad things. I really liked that hallway high five idea, just from a like administrative, mental health, good vibes going through your day. How cool is that? You get calls for good things. You get to show up and give them a high five. That's pretty neat, right?
It's wonderful. And then, I've spun it this way to encourage teachers. I'll include this information in their what we call the teacher excellence support system, our eval system, because it's providing the communication to the student, to the families. It's utilizing, or establishing that culture for learning. And yes, you are 100% right. It makes my day so much better whenever I'm able to be out in the hall during a class exchange and say, hey, I heard you did this in biology, or hey, Mr. Squires said you passed on that CNC test that you were taking. Congratulations. I'm excited about that, and that just helps keep this thing moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a principal and you're thinking about that, back to that ratio, like right now, the principal's ratio is always going to be skewed real hard negative, but you guys are 65-1 positive negative overall. Like it's gotta help your dad a whole lot. So that's great.
And that has been another big piece of this, is that it's not only increased culture among our students, but also our staff. They're happier to see what the students are doing and see how well they're progressing, not just in their classroom, but in others as well.
Very cool, guys. Well, for everybody that is listening, we will be sending out a recording and some slides here shortly. Justin, Will, thank you guys. This has been great. Really appreciate y'all's time. We'll have to do it again sometime. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and sign off.